Dr. Amanda Blake stared at the computer screen in her small lab aboard the ESV Phoenix, her brow furrowed in concentration. The numbers dancing across the display made no sense. The data was simple, strange signals from deep space. At first, she'd thought it was just random noise from a distant star. But now, after days of analyzing the patterns, Amanda knew it was something else, something far more urgent. The signal wasn't random. Someone or something was trying to communicate, but who and why now? Amanda pushed back from her desk, her chair squeaking as she stood. She walked over to the small coffee machine in the corner of the lab, trying to shake off the growing unease gnawing at her. The Phoenix had been drifting through the outer edges of human space for 6 months now, its mission simple: search for signs of alien life. Most days, they found nothing but empty space and the occasional meteor shower. A routine, but this was different. The door to the lab opened with a soft chime. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison entered, holding 2 steaming cups of coffee in one hand. As the ship's security chief, Jake's presence was a comfort to Amanda, not just because of his job, but because of his steady nature. He was a big man with short brown hair and eyes that made everyone feel safe, even in the vastness of deep space. "Still working on that signal?" Jake asked, his deep voice low as he set the cups down on her desk. "Yeah, and it's not random," Amanda replied, gesturing to the screen. "Look at these patterns. They repeat every 47 minutes and 13 seconds, too precise to be natural. This is deliberate." She ran a hand through her hair, her eyes glued to the screen. Jake leaned in, his expression serious. "So you think it's aliens?" Amanda didn't answer immediately. Her thoughts were too tangled in the implications. "I think someone's in trouble. This is a distress call. These frequency changes here, and here." She pointed to sections of the data. "They're too irregular to be anything else. There's fear encoded in this signal, Jake. Urgency, desperation." Jake's face softened, his usual calm replaced with a trace of concern. "That's a hell of a lot of responsibility. We could be looking at first contact or a trap." Amanda's mind raced. "We won't know until we investigate further, but I think they need help." Before Jake could respond, the door opened again. Lisa Harper, the ship's communications specialist, entered. Her tired eyes told Amanda all she needed to know. She wasn't the only one working around the clock. "Captain Stone wants to see both of you on the bridge," Lisa said, her voice steady but carrying the weight of a long shift. "Understood," Jake said, standing up. "Let's go." They left the lab, moving down the narrow corridors of the Phoenix. The ship wasn't large, but its crew of 12 made it feel like home. Passing the crew quarters, the small dining area, and the engine room, they made their way to the bridge. Captain Rick Stone stood at the helm, his hands clasped behind his back as he stared out at the stars. His silver hair gave him an air of experience, though his calm demeanor hid the weight of the decisions he had to make. "Amanda," he said without turning around, "show me what you found." Amanda moved quickly to the communication station, her fingers dancing over the controls as she brought up her findings. The signal was coming from the Kepler 442 system, 300 light-years from their position. "The signal started 3 days ago," Amanda explained, pointing to the data. "It's coming from a source in the Kepler 442 system. It's broadcasting on repeat, and the patterns suggest that it's not just a random signal. Someone's trying to send a message, and they're desperate." Captain Stone's expression remained unreadable, but the tension in his shoulders betrayed his concern. "Can you make sense of it? Are they asking for help?" Lisa Harper moved to the screen, her voice steady. "The language is unlike anything we've encountered before, but I've been working on the mathematical structure of the signal. They're using prime numbers, geometric shapes, basic math. The most interesting part, though, is the emotional markers embedded in the signal. Fear, urgency, desperation." Captain Stone turned to Amanda. "We're going to need to decode it. How long will it take?" Lisa spoke up before Amanda could. "If I work around the clock, I can have it decoded in 2 days. The mathematical elements are straightforward. The language part will be tricky, though." Captain Stone nodded, his face hardening with resolve. "Do it. Jake, I want extra security watches. If this is a real distress call, we need to be ready for anything." Amanda felt the weight of the order settle on her shoulders. She could hear the hum of the ship's engines, the beat of the Phoenix's life in every wall, every corridor. Everything was about to change. She could feel it. The next 2 days passed in a blur of exhaustion and anticipation. Amanda barely left her lab, living off cold coffee and the occasional meal delivered by the ship's automated systems. The signal never stopped, never wavered. It was as though whatever or whoever was on the other side of the transmission was clinging to the last thread of hope they had. Lisa Harper worked tirelessly on decoding the alien language. At first, it had seemed hopeless, an incomprehensible jumble of symbols, patterns, and prime numbers. But Lisa's sharp mind, combined with Amanda's data and intuition, had begun to crack the code. They had a breakthrough in the early hours of the second night. "Captain," Lisa's voice crackled through the ship's intercom. "I've got it." Amanda's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't realized how much she'd been holding her breath until the words came through. "You've decoded it?" she asked, rushing to Lisa's station. Lisa's eyes were bloodshot, but her voice was triumphant. "I've translated the main structure of the message. It's a distress signal. They are asking for help, no, begging for it." Amanda stepped closer, watching the symbols shift into something she could understand. The alien message came through, crisp and clear. They weren't just pleading for assistance. They were making an urgent call to any species capable of interstellar travel. "We are the Galactic Council of 12 Worlds. We are broadcasting this message to any civilization capable of interstellar travel and military action. We are under attack by an enemy we cannot defeat. They call themselves the Devourers. They consume entire worlds, leaving nothing alive. We have lost 15 star systems in the past year. Our military forces are insufficient. Our weapons cannot stop them." Amanda's heart pounded in her chest. The words echoed in her mind, mixing with the gravity of the situation. This wasn't just a message. It was a cry for help from a civilization on the brink of extinction. Lisa continued reading the translation. "They've detected our radio transmissions. They know we exist. They've heard humanity's signals, but they don't know if we are peaceful or warlike. Still, they are desperate enough to ask us for help." Jake stepped forward, his brow furrowed. "How do we know this isn't a trap? The Devourers. We don't even know what they are yet." Amanda turned to him. "The emotional markers in the signal suggest it's real. They're terrified, Jake. Whoever sent this is in serious trouble." Captain Stone entered the room, his presence immediately commanding attention. He studied the screen for a long moment, then turned to the crew. "I want all of you to prepare for a briefing. I'm sending the decoded message to Earth Command. This is too big for us to make a decision alone." The briefing was tense. In the darkened briefing room, Amanda, Jake, and the senior officers of the Phoenix gathered around the table. Captain Stone stood at the head, his expression unreadable. "Everyone, this is no longer just a signal," Stone said, his voice firm. "This is a call for help from an alien species, a call we can't ignore." He looked around at each member of the crew, his eyes pausing on Amanda. "What do you think, Dr. Blake? Should we respond?" Amanda took a deep breath, weighing her words carefully. "I don't think we have a choice. We're humanity's first line of defense in this unknown galaxy. If we don't answer this call, no one else will." The crew exchanged looks, the weight of their captain's words settling over them. "Captain, if we respond, we need to prepare for anything," Jake said, his tone serious. "We have no idea what we're walking into. We don't even know what these Devourers are capable of." Amanda met Jake's gaze. "We're going to find out together." Captain Stone nodded. "Agreed, prepare yourselves. We'll be sending the message to Earth Command, and we'll be ready to make our decision, but one thing is clear, this mission will change everything." The next few hours passed in tense silence as the Phoenix sent the translated message to Earth Command, awaiting a response. In the meantime, Amanda couldn't shake the feeling that their lives and the future of humanity were about to change forever. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Earth Command's response came through, almost faster than Amanda thought possible. Admiral Karen Walsh's face appeared on the screen, her expression grave. "Captain Stone, this is Admiral Walsh. Your discovery has caused a stir here on Earth. The President and the United Nations Security Council have been in emergency session since we received your transmission." She paused, her tired eyes flicking to the screen behind her. "We've made a decision. Humanity will respond to the alien distress call. The Phoenix will head to the coordinates you've provided. You'll be joined by a full military escort. Colonel Pete Sanders will be leading a Marine division, and 3 destroyer-class vessels will be accompanying you." Amanda's heart raced. This was it. Earth had made its decision. There was no turning back now. Admiral Walsh's voice broke through her thoughts. We don't know what we're walking into, but we're sending everything we have. Prepare for contact. The Phoenix is the tip of the spear, the first human ship to answer an alien distress call. Hours later, the Phoenix was en route to the Kepler 442 system, accompanied by the military escort. Amanda sat in her lab, the hum of the ship's engines a constant reminder of the unknown ahead. She couldn't stop thinking about the message, about the lives at stake. These alien beings, whoever they were, had sent the signal in the desperate hope that someone would hear them. Now, humanity was their last hope. Her mind wandered back to the details of the signal. The alien race had lost everything. Their homes, their star systems, their loved ones. The devourers were relentless. How would humanity, with all its history of conflict and war, respond to the challenge? A soft chime interrupted her thoughts. She glanced at the screen. A new transmission from Captain Stone. Amanda, get to the bridge. We're entering the Kepler system. The moment Amanda stepped onto the bridge, the atmosphere had shifted. It wasn't just the crew's tense silence. It was something deeper. A sense of purpose filled the air, thick and palpable, as though every one of them knew they were standing on the precipice of something monumental. The stars outside the viewport seemed distant and cold, as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath. Captain Stone stood at the helm, his eyes fixed on the star system ahead. Kepler 442, a star system that would forever be etched in humanity's history. "We're almost there," he said quietly, not turning from the view. Amanda approached the command station, Jake following close behind. Lisa Harper was at her communications station, her fingers dancing across the console as she fine-tuned their instruments. "We're within range of the alien fleet," Lisa reported, her voice calm but strained. "I'm picking up multiple signals. Some of them seem to be broadcasting greetings. It's a welcome message, Captain." Captain Stone nodded but didn't speak. His focus was absolute. He turned to Amanda. "You ready for this?" Amanda took a deep breath. There was no turning back now. She had known this moment would come, but the reality of it was still overwhelming. "I think so. We'll need to tread carefully. Whatever's going on, these aliens are in serious trouble." "Agreed," Stone replied, his voice steady but with a note of concern. "But they're desperate. We can't afford to waste any time." Suddenly, the ship's sensors blared, cutting through the tense silence. The comms station flashed with a red alert. "Captain, I'm receiving a high-priority transmission from the largest ship in the alien fleet," Lisa said, her voice laced with urgency. "It's coming through now." The main screen flickered, and then displayed an image that took Amanda's breath away. The alien in front of them was unlike anything she had ever seen. It was beautiful in a strange, otherworldly way. Its pale skin seemed to glow faintly, shifting like liquid light, and its elongated head had large, dark eyes that conveyed a deep sense of sorrow. The creature's body appeared fluid, ethereal, as though it were made of something between light and energy. "Greetings, beings from the world called Earth," the alien spoke, its voice musical, though the translation software on board quickly converted it into English. "I am High Coordinator Zenthka of the Altarian Assembly. We cannot express our gratitude that you have answered our call for aid." Amanda's heart skipped a beat. This was it, first contact, the moment humanity had been waiting for. Captain Stone stood tall, speaking with the calm authority that had earned him his rank. "We're here to help. I'm Captain Rick Stone of the Earth vessel Phoenix. We received your distress message, and we've come to offer whatever assistance we can. But we need to understand more. What exactly are we facing?" The alien Zenthka nodded slowly, the emotion in its eyes growing more intense. "We are facing an enemy that we cannot defeat. They call themselves the Devourers. They are a scourge upon our galaxy, consuming entire worlds, leaving nothing alive in their wake. We have tried everything, diplomatic contact, military strategies, even the evacuation of entire star systems. But nothing works. They do not negotiate. They do not retreat. They simply consume." Amanda's chest tightened as Zenthka's words sank in. The desperation in its voice was unmistakable. The creatures they were facing were not simply invaders. They were a galactic plague. A force of nature with no morals, no reason, just a hunger for destruction. "We have lost 47 star systems in the past year," Zenthka continued, its voice breaking. "And the Devourers are coming for us. Our weapons are ineffective against them. We are out of time. Please, Earth, you are our last hope." A long silence followed the alien's words. The crew of the Phoenix stood frozen, absorbing the magnitude of what they had just heard. These were peaceful beings, Advanced, yes, but fragile in the face of a threat they couldn't comprehend. And now they were asking humanity to step in to fight a battle that might very well be their last. Captain Stone broke the silence first. How far are the Devourers from your world? Zenthka's eyes darkened. They are within 3 months' travel of our home. They are already near Kepler 442. The attack will begin soon. Amanda exchanged a look with Jake. This was worse than she had feared. A full-scale assault with no warning, no chance for defense. The Altarians were unprepared for war. They had never fought an enemy like this. Captain, we've been tracking their fleet, Lisa interjected, her fingers moving rapidly over her station. There. They're not following any standard military formation. They're moving in a haphazard, almost chaotic manner, but it's like they don't need to follow protocol. Their ships are biological, not mechanical. I think they might be alive. The realization hit Amanda like a cold wave. If their ships were living creatures, it meant that the Devourers were not just machines or invaders. They were a force of nature, an unstoppable predatory species that would eat anything in its path. We can't fight them with conventional methods, Amanda murmured. We'll have to think outside the box. We need to understand how they work, how they think. Agreed, Captain Stone said. He turned back to Zenthka. We'll assist you, High Coordinator, but we'll need to meet in person. Can you arrange for us to join your command staff? We need a full briefing on what we're facing. Zenthka nodded, its body rippling with a soft light as it adjusted its posture. Yes, Captain, we will prepare a conference aboard my flagship. Please come as quickly as you can. The situation grows more dire with each passing hour. As the transmission ended, the bridge crew moved into action. Lisa began transmitting their request for a meeting to the alien flagship, while Jake and Amanda exchanged words with Captain Stone. I'll have my Marines ready, Jake said. We're likely going to need boots on the ground at some point. We can't risk walking into a situation without preparation. Amanda nodded. We'll need to study their biology, their technology. If their ships are living creatures, maybe there's something we can exploit. We can't just approach this with brute force. Captain Stone's voice was calm but firm as he issued the orders. Get to work, everyone. We have a galaxy to save. The Phoenix slowly moved toward the Altarian flagship, the massive vessel looming ahead like a glowing monolith in the darkness of space. For the first time, Amanda felt a sense of urgency that had nothing to do with the cold, vast emptiness of space. This wasn't just another mission. It wasn't just an exploration. This was humanity's first real test, an opportunity to prove that they were more than the violence of their past, that they were capable of something greater. But as the alien flagship grew larger on the screen, Amanda couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't just walking into an unknown. They were walking into the heart of a war, and they would have to fight like monsters if they were going to survive. The conference aboard the Altarian flagship was unlike anything Amanda had ever experienced. The interior of the ship was vast, more like a living habitat than a vessel of war. The walls were soft, almost organic in their design, pulsing gently with light that seemed to radiate from within. The air was thick with a sweet, floral scent, and the gravity was slightly different from what they were used to on the Phoenix, gentler, almost soothing. Amanda, Jake, and Captain Stone were led through the winding corridors by a group of Altarian attendants. They moved with a fluid grace, their elongated limbs and translucent skin glowing faintly in the dim light. The walls of the flagship seemed to grow around them, seamlessly blending with the ship's architecture. It felt more like being inside a living creature than a machine. The crew had been briefed about the Altarians' peaceful nature, but seeing them in person, so different from humans, made Amanda realize just how fragile this alliance truly was. Their species had never known war. They had no concept of predators, of creatures that killed for sport or survival. Their entire culture was built around cooperation, peace, and growth. As they entered the command center, the atmosphere shifted. The room was circular, with a massive translucent screen in the center, displaying a map of the galaxy. But instead of stars, the map was dotted with red markers, symbols of planets and systems already consumed by the Devourers. High Coordinator Zenthka stood at the center of the room, flanked by representatives from various alien species, their forms as varied as the stars themselves. Some were insected, with delicate wings and compound eyes. Others resembled living crystal, their bodies refracting light in dazzling displays. Still, others were more humanoid in shape, though their skin was blue, green, or entirely translucent. As Amanda took her place at the table, she couldn't help but feel the weight of the situation. These species had never fought a war. They didn't know what it was like to face extinction. They had no idea what humanity was capable of. Zenthka's voice cut through her thoughts. Welcome, Earth delegates. We are grateful for your presence. We've never faced an enemy like the Devourers, but now we have no choice but to ask for your assistance. Please share with us your thoughts. How can you help us? Captain Stone spoke first, his voice steady and authoritative. We've reviewed the data you sent us, High Coordinator. We understand the urgency of your situation. We've fought our own battles, and we've learned through experience that sometimes diplomacy isn't enough. If we're going to survive, we need to be prepared to fight on our terms. Jake leaned forward, his military instincts kicking in. You mentioned their ships were living creatures. If that's true, we need to understand how they function. If we can figure out their biology, we might have a chance of stopping them. But we'll need more than just weapons. We'll need to think strategically. Zenthka's eyes flickered with something that might have been confusion. We've tried every strategy we know. Our weapons are useless. Our military tactics have failed. We are a peaceful people, Captain. We've never fought a war. Amanda felt the tension rise in the room. The Altarians were not prepared for the kind of violence they were about to face. The weight of what humanity was about to offer, felt heavier than ever. They weren't just stepping into a galactic conflict. They were becoming the hammer, the weapon that would forge a new path through the stars. We've fought in wars before, Amanda said, her voice calm but firm. But we don't always fight the way others do. We'll teach you how to defend yourselves, but we'll need to adapt to your way of life. We'll need to incorporate your technology, your knowledge, and, most importantly, your species' ability to think differently. Zenthka looked at her, a flicker of hope in his eyes. And what do you propose, Earth? What strategy do you recommend? Amanda turned to the table where various species had gathered. We fight as a pack. We fight as humans, aggressive, relentless, and unyielding. But we don't just charge into battle. We use our ingenuity, our creativity, to turn the tide. We study our enemy, learn their weaknesses, and adapt. That's how we've survived. The silence that followed was deafening. Zenthka and the other delegates exchanged looks, unsure of what to make of the humans' bold words. But the fear in their eyes, fear of the Devourers, fear of annihilation, spoke louder than any hesitation. We will trust you, Zenthka said, his voice shaky but resolute. You have fought battles, you have survived wars. If you think you can help us, we will follow your lead. Captain Stone nodded. Then let's get to work. We need to prepare for war, and we need to act fast. The next few hours were a whirlwind of planning and strategizing. The Phoenix was joined by the Altarians, most trusted military officers, and together they reviewed battle plans, military tactics, and defensive strategies. Amanda worked with their scientific team, studying the Devourers' biology and technology, trying to find any advantage that could be used. The Altarians' military was weak. Their tactics focused on diplomacy and negotiation rather than combat. But their technology was advanced, and their knowledge of the galaxy's resources was vast. It was a fragile alliance, one built on the understanding that humanity had what the Altarians lacked: the will to fight, the cunning to survive. Captain, Amanda said after hours of strategizing, we've learned enough about the Devourers to know that they don't just destroy, they consume. They feed on the planets they conquer, leaving no trace of life behind. It's not just about conquering territory for them. It's about annihilating everything. Jake, who had been silent for much of the discussion, stood up. So we fight them like we would fight a predator. We don't just defend, we hunt. Amanda nodded. Exactly. We need to lure them into a trap, but we need the Altarians' help. We need to use their ships to set up a decoy, something that will draw the Devourers into an ambush. Zenthka, who had been listening intently, spoke up. You're asking us to sacrifice our ships as bait? This is dangerous. Many of us may not survive. We won't ask you to sacrifice anything without a plan to protect you, Captain Stone said, his voice hard. But if we don't do this, we won't just lose ships. We'll lose everything. The room fell silent once more. The Altarians' peaceful nature was being tested like never before. They had no choice but to trust humanity's instincts and their capacity to protect. As the final battle plans took shape, the crew of the Phoenix prepared for what would be their first real test. It was no longer just about answering a distress call. It was about proving that humanity could do more than survive the harshness of the galaxy. They could change it. The Phoenix and its escort, including the 3 destroyer-class vessels, entered the heart of the Kepler 442 system, their engines humming steadily as they approached the Altarian flagship. The distance between the ships and the planetary system seemed to shrink with every passing minute, the anticipation thickening in the air. As they neared, Amanda found herself standing on the observation deck, gazing out at the alien fleet that had assembled in the distance. The Altarians had rallied together, dozens of species, all seeking to preserve what was left of their homes. Some of their ships were crystalline and shimmering in the light of the dying star, while others were more organic in shape, living vessels that pulsed with a soft glow. They moved with a grace that only advanced species could possess, but their purpose was clear. They were preparing for a war they had never asked for. Amanda's thoughts were interrupted by a sharp voice from behind her. "Dr. Blake, we've got something," Jake said, his voice tense. Turning, she saw Jake at the communications station, his brow furrowed in concentration. She walked over quickly, her heart racing. "What is it?" she asked. "I'm picking up movement, large scale," Jake replied. "The Devourers are making their approach." Amanda's stomach sank. "How many?" 47 ships, all bioorganic. I'm also detecting movement from their smaller vessels. It looks like they're trying to make a coordinated assault. They're coming straight for us, no hesitation. Amanda swallowed hard. The Devourers were closing in fast, their enormous ships moving like predatory creatures through space, drawn to the Altarian fleet. She could almost feel the tension in the air, as if the entire universe was holding its breath. Captain Stone's voice crackled over the comms. "Dr. Blake, Jake, report to the bridge, now." When Amanda and Jake arrived, Captain Stone was already standing at the helm, his expression as cold as the stars outside. "They're here," he said, nodding toward the main screen. The Devourer fleet had appeared in the distance, monstrous and terrifying, their ships resembling vast sea creatures drifting through the void. The scale of the threat was overwhelming. "Everything's in place?" Stone asked, turning to Amanda. Amanda nodded, trying to mask the dread she felt. "Yes. The Altarians have positioned their ships as decoys, and our forces are ready to engage if necessary. We just need to wait for the right moment." Jake stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the screen. "They'll make the first move. These creatures don't negotiate." "We won't be negotiating either," Stone replied, his voice low. "We'll draw them in, hit them fast, and make sure they regret ever setting foot in this galaxy." Amanda felt a chill at Stone's words. He wasn't just commanding a military force, he was preparing for a battle of survival. The stakes couldn't have been higher. "We can't afford to let them get too close to the Altarian fleet," Amanda said. "If we do, we risk losing everything in one fell swoop." Stone turned to the communications station. "Lisa, patch me through to the fleet commanders. Let's make sure everyone's on the same page." The minutes ticked by, each one heavier than the last. The Phoenix moved into position, the Altarian flagship and its fleet positioned between them and the incoming Devourer ships. The plan was simple: lure the Devourers into a trap, where the combined forces of humanity and the Altarians could strike fast and decisively. "We've got incoming," Jake said, his voice tight with tension. "They're adjusting course. It looks like they're taking the bait." Amanda felt a knot form in her stomach. She had no idea if this plan would work, if humanity's ingenuity could truly overcome the horrors of the Devourers. But there was no going back now. "Ready all weapons," Stone commanded, his voice sharp. "We engage on my mark." The seconds stretched on. The Devourers were coming, their monstrous ships slowly drawing closer, their movements erratic and almost animalistic. It was clear they were closing in for the kill, but they weren't prepared for what humanity and the Altarians had in store. "Captain, the Altarians are holding position," Lisa reported, her voice steady but laced with fear. "They're waiting for us to make the first move." "Good," Stone said. "Hold your ground, everyone. Don't let them get too close." Then the moment came. The first Devourer ship breached the Altarian fleet's outer perimeter, its massive body glowing with an eerie, sickly light. It was enormous, larger than any of the ships in their fleet. It moved like a predator, swarming toward the decoy ships that had been set in place, its organic hull pulsing with energy. And then it happened. "Fire!" Stone roared. The Phoenix's weapon systems came to life, sending a barrage of missiles and plasma rounds toward the Devourer ship. At the same time, the Altarians released their own counterattacks. their ships unleashing energy beams and defensive shields in a coordinated strike. The Devourer ship's hull shuddered under the force of the barrage, but it didn't stop. It didn't retreat. Instead, it accelerated, heading straight for the Altarian flagship. The enemy was relentless. "Engage close combat tactics," Captain Stone ordered. "No holding back, we finish this now." Amanda's heart was in her throat as the battle erupted in full force. The Phoenix moved forward, firing on all cylinders. The Devourers weren't just an enemy, they were an unstoppable force of nature. Their ships took damage, but the biological armor seemed to absorb the hits, healing almost as quickly as they were inflicted. It was like fighting a living, breathing nightmare. Jake was at the helm, his hands flying over the controls as the ship dove toward the Devourer fleet. "We need to hit them hard, take out their central command ship." Amanda's mind raced. She knew what they had to do. "We can't go for the central ship, not yet. We need to draw them away from the others. Get the Marines ready. We're going to need them on the ground soon." The Phoenix shook as Devourer bioships retaliated with brutal force, their tentacles reaching out, striking like lightning. The shields on the Phoenix flickered dangerously, but they held firm. The battle was chaotic, fast, and brutal. "Captain, we're getting reports from the Altarians," Lisa said, her voice urgent. "They're taking heavy damage. We need to split our forces." Stone's expression hardened. "Get the Retribution and the destroyers in position to support the Altarians. We're going in for the kill." The tide of the battle was beginning to turn. The combined forces of humanity and the Altarians were pushing back, but it wasn't easy. The Devourers were relentless, and their ships seemed to regenerate faster than their weapons could destroy them. Amanda felt the weight of the situation press down on her chest. They were running out of time. They were running out of options. The Phoenix raced toward the heart of the Devourer fleet, the final push. As they engaged in close combat, Amanda saw the first of the Devourer ships begin to fall, crippled. Its core exploded under a direct hit from the Phoenix's plasma cannon. "We're not done yet," Jake said, his voice grim. "This is just the beginning." The battle was a maelstrom. Amidst the chaos, the Phoenix and its fleet pushed forward, determined to face the Devourers head-on. Explosions rippled across the void, sending shockwaves through the fabric of space itself. The monstrous bioships of the Devourers were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Organic and mechanical fused in ways that defied comprehension, their forms stretching and shifting like some living nightmare. They absorbed the blows from the Phoenix's plasma rounds and fired back with grotesque, twisting tentacles that lashed out like predatory limbs. "Report," Captain Stone barked as he clutched the console. His eyes never left the screen, watching as the battle unfolded before them. The Altarian flagship was struggling to maintain its position, and the enemy was relentless. "We've taken down 2 of their smaller ships," Jake reported, his face grim as the ship shuddered under the impact of an enemy strike. "But these things are like tumors. Every time we hit them, they regenerate." Amanda felt the tension grow. It was exactly what they had feared. They weren't dealing with ships, they were dealing with living organisms. The Devourers' bioships could heal, adapt, and grow stronger with each hit, making them nearly impossible to destroy. "We need to hit them in their core," Amanda said, her voice urgent. "We need to find the heart of their system, whatever part of them controls the ship. If we can disable their regenerative abilities, we might have a chance." Captain Stone's jaw clenched. "I'm counting on you, Amanda. Let's finish this." The Phoenix surged forward, its weapons blazing. The crew was operating on sheer instinct now, driven by the knowledge that this was their only chance. The Altarians, for all their beauty and intelligence, were fighting for the first time. They struggled to keep up with the brutal efficiency of humanity's military strategy. "Take out their rear defenses," Stone shouted, pointing to a group of Devourer ships attempting to flank their position. The Phoenix veered hard to the left, firing off missiles at the incoming attackers. "We need to break their formation before they can get to the Altarians." But the Devourers were not dissuaded. They were as merciless as the void itself. The Phoenix's hull groaned under the strain as another tentacle-like weapon wrapped around its rear, dragging the ship toward a massive bioship. The lights in the bridge flickered as alarms rang through the command deck. "Captain, we've been locked," Lisa shouted, panic creeping into her voice. "Brace for impact," Stone shouted, but his calm demeanor had already instilled confidence in his crew. They all moved as one, responding with precision. Amanda's mind raced. Jake, we need to break free, use the aft thrusters. Jake didn't hesitate. With a quick flick of his hands, the ship's thrusters ignited, and the Phoenix jerked violently, shaking free from the Devourer's grasp. The creature screamed, a low, vibrating sound that reverberated through the hull of the Phoenix, and the ship tore itself free. "We've lost shields on the aft section," Jake shouted, his voice strained with exertion. "We can't take much more of this." Amanda clenched her fists. "We need to keep pushing. If we stop now, we're finished. The Altarians can't do this on their own. We're their only chance." Above, the battle raged on. The Phoenix was no longer just a ship. It was the spearhead of humanity's first true military intervention in the galaxy. The Altarians, once peaceful and naive, were now learning to fight with the ferocity that only the desperation of extinction could bring. The tide of battle began to shift in their favor. "Target their central ship," Stone ordered. "That's where their command is. If we take that down, we take down the whole fleet." Amanda's heart raced as the Phoenix's weapons locked onto the central Devourer bioship, its massive form looming ahead like a dark star. It was the heart of the Devourer fleet, the one place where their control was at its strongest. The crew moved as one, preparing for the final strike. "Weapons systems at 90%, Lisa reported, her voice tight with anticipation. "Make every shot count," Stone said, eyes never leaving the screen. The Phoenix's plasma cannons roared to life as the ship advanced, pushing forward into the heart of the Devourer fleet. Every shot that hit the massive bioship seemed to sink into its flesh, only to have the ship repair itself instantly. But then something shifted. The damage started to mount. The bioship's regeneration was slower now, its movements sluggish, as if it was beginning to realize it was dying. "Whatever you're doing, keep it up," Jake shouted over the din of alarms. "We're breaking through." The main screen flickered, and Amanda saw the central ship's core exposed and vulnerable. With one last, concentrated blast, the Phoenix fired directly at its heart. The Devourer bioship screamed in agony, its massive form convulsing in the void, its lights flickering violently. The core ruptured, sending a shockwave through the fleet. It was the moment Amanda had been waiting for, the moment the Devourers realized they were not invincible. "We did it," Jake shouted, a victorious grin breaking across his face. But the sound of the Phoenix shuddering and alarms blaring told him otherwise. "Wait, there's still more coming." Amanda's heart sank as she watched more Devourer ships emerge from the darkness. It wasn't over. Not yet. Captain Stone's voice rang out, cutting through the confusion. "All ships focus on the remaining bioships. Take them down one by one. We won't stop until every last one is gone." The Phoenix surged forward, its weapons now firing in rapid succession. The Devourers, leaderless and disoriented, began to fall apart. The remaining ships were easy targets, collapsing under the overwhelming might of humanity's firepower. But just as Amanda began to think victory was within reach, a chilling message crackled through the comms. "This is High Coordinator Zenthka. We have received word from our colonies. The Devourers have already begun their assault on the Altarian homeworld. We have to." The transmission cut off abruptly, and the screen turned to static. "No," Amanda whispered, her stomach dropping. Stone turned sharply. "What's happening?" "We've lost contact with the Altarians on the surface," Lisa reported, her face pale with concern. "They're under direct attack. The Devourers are moving to their homeworld now." "Prepare for immediate jump to hyperspace," Stone ordered. "We're not done yet." The Phoenix shifted into position, preparing for the final leap. The Altarians had already given everything they had. They were too weak to defend themselves without help. The Phoenix had to be their last line of defense. "We'll save them," Amanda said, her voice resolute. The Phoenix raced through the dark void, its engines pushed to their limits as it made its way toward the Altarian homeworld. The battle outside had been brutal, but now, with the core of the Devourer fleet defeated, it was a race against time to save what remained of the Altarian civilization. Captain Stone stood at the helm, his eyes focused on the viewport as the stars streaked by, their light twisted into long lines by the ship's incredible speed. The tension in the air was thick, a palpable reminder of the lives at stake. Amanda felt her hands tremble as she gripped the edge of the command table. They were running out of time. The Altarian homeworld was no longer safe. "We'll make it," Jake said, his voice calm despite the urgency of the situation. "We have to." "Captain, we're almost there," Lisa reported. her hands flying over the controls as the coordinates for the Altarian homeworld blinked on the screen. "Hold your positions," Stone commanded. "This is where we either win everything or lose it all. Prepare for engagement." The Phoenix dropped out of hyperspace with a jolt, and the Altarian homeworld loomed large in front of them. The once beautiful blue and green planet now looked fragile, vulnerable. A fleet of Devourer ships had already begun to encircle the planet, their massive forms casting long shadows over the surface. "They've already begun their assault," Amanda said, her voice tight. "We don't have much time. We need to get in there and stop them before they breach the surface." Jake looked out the viewport. "How many ships are we looking at?" "Hundreds," Lisa replied, her voice trembling with the weight of the information. "Their entire fleet is here. We're outnumbered, Captain." Captain Stone's eyes narrowed. "We're not here to be outnumbered. We're here to show them what humanity can do when it's backed into a corner. All ships prepare to engage. We're going in full speed." The Phoenix surged forward, its weapons blazing. The Altarians had already begun deploying their remaining ships in a defensive perimeter around their homeworld. The ships were no longer graceful. They were desperate. Their advanced technology was useless against the sheer power of the Devourers, but the Altarians fought anyway, knowing that their very existence was on the line. "Launch all fighters," Stone shouted. "We hit them hard, take out their smaller ships first. We'll clear a path to the main Devourer fleet." The battle raged as the Phoenix's fighters launched from the hangar, screaming toward the enemy. Amanda watched from the command deck as the dogfights ensued, laser fire lighting up the dark expanse of space. The Devourer ships retaliated, their long, tentacle-like weapons swarming the Altarian fighters. The smell of burning metal and the distant cries of destruction filled the comms. "We've got incoming," Jake warned, pointing to the view screen. A new wave of Devourer bioships was coming toward them faster than expected. Amanda's mind raced. They needed to buy time. They needed to destroy the central command ship before the Devourers could land on the planet. She turned to Stone. "We need to take out their leader. The central ship, it's their brain. If we take it down, we take down their entire fleet." Stone's expression hardened, his eyes reflecting the same resolve that had carried him through countless battles. "Agreed. Full speed ahead." The Phoenix pushed forward, its weapon systems firing relentlessly at the Devourer fleet. Amanda's stomach lurched as the ship barreled toward the massive central bioship, the heart of the Devourer fleet. It was bigger than anything they had encountered, its surface shimmering with a sickly, organic glow. "Captain, we're getting heavy resistance," Lisa shouted. "They're focusing everything on us now. If we keep this up, we'll be torn apart." "We have no choice," Stone replied. "We can't let them reach the surface. If they land, it's over. Keep pushing forward." Amanda gripped the railing, her knuckles white. "We're getting close. Get a targeting lock on their central core. This is it." The Phoenix shuddered under the constant barrage from the Devourers, but the ship held firm, pushing deeper into the heart of the battle. Finally, the central bioship appeared on their targeting sensors, its exposed core pulsing with energy. It was their only chance. "Target locked," Lisa called out. "Firing." The Phoenix's plasma cannons erupted, unleashing a torrent of energy that struck the core of the central ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Devourer ship bucked violently, its organic surface tearing open like flesh being cut apart. The core exploded in a brilliant flash of light, sending shockwaves through the surrounding ships. The Devourer fleet, leaderless and crippled, faltered. The remaining ships, now disoriented and without direction, began to scatter. "We've done it," Amanda whispered, feeling a weight lift from her chest. "They're retreating." But the victory was short-lived. "We've got massive damage to the starboard side," Jake said, his voice laced with urgency. "Hull breach on Deck 12. We're losing power to the main reactor." Stone's eyes flashed. "We're not done yet. We need to finish this." As the Devourers began to retreat, their ships slowly falling apart under the force of humanity's relentless assault, Amanda couldn't shake the feeling that they were still running out of time. The battle was won, but the cost was already starting to show. The Phoenix had taken damage, serious damage, and they were lucky to have survived this long. "We've got to help the Altarians evacuate," Amanda said, turning to Stone. "They can't stay on the planet. The Devourers will regroup and come back." Stone nodded. "Prepare for immediate evacuation. We're not leaving anyone behind." The Phoenix began its descent toward the Altarian surface, its remaining fighters engaged in combat with the last of the Devourer bioships. The Altarian ships, battered but intact, gathered around the Phoenix, ready to follow its lead. As they neared the planet's surface, Amanda saw the devastation below. The once vibrant cities were in ruins, scorched by the Devourer's attacks. The Altarians had done what they could to protect their people, but it wasn't enough. Now they had to rebuild to start anew. The Phoenix hovered above the remains of the capital city, its airlocks opening to allow the first of the Altarian refugees to board. The survivors, many of them injured, looked up at the humans with a mix of gratitude and awe. These were the beings who had saved them, who had proven that even the most peaceful species could learn to fight when necessary. High Coordinator Zenthka, who had been aboard the Phoenix for the final push, stepped forward, his eyes filled with emotion. "You saved us. You saved everything we've ever known. You are our protectors, but we will never forget the price of this protection." Amanda smiled softly. "You don't have to thank us. We were just doing what we had to. We're all in this together now." As the Phoenix lifted off from the planet, Amanda looked back one last time at the world below. The Devourers had been defeated, but the cost had been high. The Altarians were safe, for now, but the galaxy had learned a hard lesson. Sometimes the greatest strength comes from the most unlikely places. "Where do we go from here?" Jake asked, his voice quiet, contemplative. Amanda thought for a moment. "We rebuild. We show the galaxy that we're not just fighters, we're protectors. We stand together, humans, Altarians, and all the others." "Together," Jake repeated, a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. As the Phoenix soared through the stars, Amanda knew that this was just the beginning. There were more battles to come, more threats to face. But humanity had proven itself in the most extraordinary way, and together they would face whatever the universe threw at them.